So let's get started. Okay, so I want to switch to show you how you could use generative AI to build a similar web application very quickly. And this is actually the recommended way for you to work on your project. And because of this, more and more people start to, getting into um, development. Okay, not just from sales major, a lot of non-sales majors, they could start also to build fairly complicated applications. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you some examples. Really, what I want to show is some of the workflows, how you use the AI to build this type of things. It's not really very complicated, but still, it takes some experiences. I want to highlight some of the lessons I learned, and hopefully that can, guide you to be a little bit more efficient as you move forward with vibe coding. Okay, so let's dive into the topic. So you guys already know we're going to use AI and to generate the code. Okay, it's nothing really new, and you can go to ChatGPT, and you can just say that generate the code um, for a web app that allows me to search the lunch items based on a given maximum budget. Okay, something like this. And then they obviously they can, do all of this coding for you. And they told you what you do for the structure of the folder, the files. They use Python, and then that's the Python code. And then obviously they're gonna provide um, the front-end code as well. Okay, so this part here, nothing surprising. Okay, a lot of you already tried this one. Okay, but this is just I would say that's the AI coding 2 years ago. Okay, I think around 2023, 2024, as we do the classes, we start to use a lot of this type of ways to get a code and also follow the instruction here because they list at different steps, and you have to go there to create a folder, create a file, and copy paste the code over. Okay, so this is approach 2 years ago. You can't do this anymore. Okay, this old fashioned. Okay, it's not going to work very well because first of all, it's not very convenient, right? So you got all the code. You had to go to create a folder, everything manually, and then you need to copy the code over, and then you run there, and then you test it. If something wrong, you get a code back and forth. Not very good. Okay, not efficient. At one point, you will see that um, it doesn't scale because sometimes um, you have something wrong and then you make some changes, you have to copy the change back, and then it's impossible for you to make sure everything is synchronized. Okay. So this is not kind of vibe coding we're talking about. Okay. So we gotta do better than that. We need AI to generate everything. We need AI to create a file, to make the code changes directly, to be able to run it. And we, as the owner of the project, our main responsibility is to define the requirements, to verify if the things are okay, and provide that kind of feedback. Okay, so how do we get things started? Okay, so instead of just asking the AI to generate the code right away, okay, so we got to go back to figure out the requirements first. Okay, just like how we do the software engineering. Okay, I told you the very first phase is always to collect the requirements, and we did tell you a lot about finding the problem, and then based on the problem, think about what you want to build. Okay, here's the same case. So don't start with any coding. Really have a very clear definition on what you're trying to build as a product. Okay, in this case, I try to highlight the product, which means that I don't want you to think too much about the technical things. Okay, only think about the functionalities, problems, features, all of this. Okay, so there might be a lot of different template you can use to write this kind of requirements, but I would suggest that you start something pretty simple and concise. Really describe the kind of a problem you're looking for to solve. And as you talk the problem, give the specific context. Okay, obviously, as you write this prompt, the more details you can provide, the better. Okay, and then you specify the proposed solution. And you don't have to talk too much. I would just focus on the features. Okay, from the user point of view, what are the things you want to do? Okay. And finally, I also want you to set some kind of expectations, okay, which I will show you examples. You obviously the expression here are mostly like very high expectation you have on the project to make sure the project will be really, really good. Okay, so I would just start from these three things to describe kind of a requirements for some project. Okay, so let's start from an example. And I was thinking about different things to build. I want to choose kind of a media size type of complexity to do. It's not a simple project, but also it's not a very difficult project. Sometimes we do ask our students to try to help with there's some kind of a competition. I don't know if you got an email from me before. Okay, so like in this spring, I may ask everyone here to sign up for the judging the some of the competitions for the younger kids. Okay, they submit the project. We need some judges um, to interview the student, to look at the project, and then give scores, give feedback, give rewards. Okay, so well, now this is competitions. And what I found with the problem was that right now everything was managed manually. Students go to sign up a form, put their project, and then we ask our judges to sign up another form. And then we have someone who is managing the whole thing and then split the student into different groups, put them into Google Sheets, and then we ask the judges to go to the same Google Sheet, type the comments, figure out the student ID, and everything is manually managed by the Google form. Okay, Google Sheets. All right. So we want to have a system to manage this whole thing. Okay, as you can imagine, we want students to be able to sign up and create a project there, create a submission there, and then judges sign up there, and then system allows them to be assigned, and then judges can easily find a student, put information, everything will be saved. It's more of a competition or events management type of system. Okay, that's the concept example I want to show. Okay, so here, so I want to provide some, start from the problem, right? So the problem is really you want to give the context. Okay, so this one I wouldn't worry too much about how good your writing is, because this is not the final version you're providing to the AI. Just in your own words, that's fine. Describe what the issues you're facing. Okay, as we organize a lot of the project based competitions. It is very tedious and time consuming to manage all the information manually or lying on Google Sheets and forms. For example, we students need to sign up and submit the projects. Judges need to sign up and wait for the judging assignments, as well as putting the student project feedback, scores, awards. The admin need to manage everything right, manually and also through Google Sheets. So the problem, the core problem is that the information is spread over different forms, sheets, and not connected, related. So it's hard to automate the whole competition management. Honestly, I don't know how good this writing is. Okay, but the more thing you can put, okay, the better AI will capture the information and form the better requirements for you. Okay, so solution. Okay, so we need a web-based application that can automate the management in order to make the whole process more efficient. Okay. Always that's the goal, and then list all the features. Okay, we want to support multiple roles students, judges, and admins. Admins can create new competitions, configure the competitions, and students can sign up and submit their project in the application. Judges can also sign up and see the students' project submissions, provide feedback, give scores, record, decide the awards. Students can see the status of the project and result. Admins can make assignment of the judging and control the status of the competition, results, and maybe another feature I can think about the system, and also deliver emails, certificates, so that's pretty much the main features we're looking for. Okay. Once again, it doesn't need to be final. Okay, just get something there first. And then based on that, we can then later on iterate on that. Okay, so that's the solution part. I'm going to stop there. And also the expectation. Okay. What I find useful here is that, besides just talking about the functionalities, okay, because you want to make sure you generate something really nice, okay, but you have to provide that kind of expectation. I'll give you an example of something I normally use that I want to make sure this application is going to be an impressive prototype, not a prototype, product for me to demo to YC investors. Okay, so I talk about this YC accelerator program, the most popular accelerator program, very hard to get in. Okay, and then so that they capture that need. The application should be very modern. The UI must be professional, clean, and trendy. This system should be like a SaaS type of application that allows multiple organizations to sign up and manage the competitions. We want to turn this application into a profitable SaaS service application that could have a really high valuation from the investors. Okay, so I wrote a lot of this. Nothing really specific to the application, but it does set a lot of the, potential bars and standards. From my experience, this type of thing will kind of reflect somehow in the in the generated application. All right. So these three things are the things I recommend for you to get things started. Okay. I don't ask you to write a whole documentation to list all the features because it's very difficult. Okay. Because based on your background, based on your experiences, sometimes we don't even know what to do, right? So for example, I did mention about a SaaS system. Maybe not every one of you will think about this one, which means that, not just for one organization view, right? Any kind of organization, they can just go there, sign up and manage their own thing. So you highlight that kind of concept. But I know SaaS has a very from the investor point of view, it's a business type of business that investor really want to see. Okay, because it have very good and straightforward revenue model, and so I want to talk about those. But a lot of things, the detail you may not know, but that's fine. Okay, just think about the things you know with your knowledge, and then that's exactly why we need AI to help us, right? So this is a very good version. Now, obviously, you can just throw this one, dump this one into AI to start to work on the code. But before you do that, there's something I actually recommend, which also learned from some other best practices. So, because as you can tell, this kind of a writing is not very professional, it's not very structured. Okay, I do have some kind of different bullets, but still it's very like informal. Okay, so in order to later on have the AI to generate a better quality of code, it's better that we turn this into something more professional, more well-defined. Okay. So one way to do this is something called a product requirements document. Okay, so this one is some kind of a template people define from the business domain that what a product should be specified. Okay, they talk about the objectives and goals and the features, the user workflow, system requirements, and also some of the assumptions and dependencies. Okay, so you can look for the product requirement document, but it's a very standard kind of document from the business domain. So what I suggest you to do is this. So once you have your basic description, okay, so just go to any of the AI tool, okay, generate a professional product requirements document or PRD based on the following project description. Okay, I'm gonna copy this one here. All right, let's see what they can generate. All right, as you can see, this time this document has a better and more professional sections and specify everything. So let's just quickly go through this one. Okay, they have a product name and Compute OS. It's a SaaS competition management system. Okay, executive summary. This is a modern multi-tenant SaaS platform. As you can see, they started mentioning a term called multi-tenant, which means that you can host different groups, and every group has its own admin, judge, and student. That's called a multi-tenant. Okay, so see that kind of term, we didn't say it, but they kind of captured the idea. Designed to automate and streamline the end-to-end management of project-based competitions. It replaces fragmented workflows based on Google Form sheets and manual coordination with a unified role-based system for student, judges, admins. Okay, the platform is designed not only to solve the potential inefficiency, but also are going to be served a high valuation product suitable for investor demos. Okay, as you can tell, this whole writing is just 100 times better than the one I wrote, but that's fun. Okay, so that's why you just need to spend a very small amount of time to summarize what you're thinking, and then we want AI to iterate on this. Okay, and then the problem statement. So they have very specific problem statements, operation pinpoints, data across different platforms and manual assignment, no centralized workflow. And if you read this one, it really capture the situation, okay, the core problem. And then here's the vision. Okay, so we want to build a Shopify for project-based company. Exactly, right? So think about Shopify. That's a very successful SaaS platform. Everyone can go there to create their own store and manage all the inventory. And in our case, we want people to go there to create their competition and to manage everything. Okay, so launch competition minutes, automate judging workflows, everything, and target users and roles. So you got organizations, that's a tenant. So schools, nonprofits, all the different organizations. Role type, they have students, they can do all of this. And judges, they can do all of this. And admins, they can do all of these things. All right. And then product goals, function goals, and fully automate, eliminate spreadsheet, business goals, and experience goals from different perspectives. And here's a core feature. And so let's just go through some of the important ones. For example, they can manage the competition, the whole life cycle. You can draft it, you can open it, and the submission open, and it's judging, results, and archive closed. Okay. For competition, you can configure a lot of these different things. And for student submission, and they have all these parameters and then judging, evaluation, and very detailed design, okay, which we never, can completely sync all of this. They have notification system, they have certificates generation, and a lot of dashboard analysis, okay? And they also talk about the non-functional requirements. They talk about scalability, security, performance, reliability, and then UI. They also have some of the requirements. Okay, they even talk about a business model. That they have a starter, right? So limited features, and then you pay. You got a pro version, and you got an enterprise version. Very typical SaaS kind of a business model. All right. And then here's the technical architecture. Okay, here they use frontend, Next.js. They use backend, API-based structure. They are also talking about Next.js. I'll talk about this one a little bit more. And they have database and infrastructure, cloud deployment stuff. Okay, and they also produce some MVP scope. All right, so this is very professional because they know that this is a very big project. So you can't build everything all at once. Okay, so you have to start from first MVP prototype version, the core features, multi-tenant organization, competition creation, student submission, everything. Okay, and they have some of the KPIs. You talk about how you improve our efficiency. All the manual work's been reduced. All right, a lot of this. All right. So if you read this one, you will have a feeling on how well this one aligns with what you're thinking. Okay. Even though this one looks very professional, okay, very good, but don't just be satisfied with this. Okay, a lot of time we saw the general result, it looks really good, but still I would suggest that you look into this one and provide any kind of feedback you may have. Okay, particularly I'll focus on the functions part because the vision, everything, I think that's perfect. Okay, so we just want to double check if there anything missing or something you saw that's not needed. I'll go here to look at this again. So student need to sign up, submit, and view results, everything. And for the judges, provide feedback. That all looks good. Yeah, this part is fun. This is actually very well specified. Okay, part of the reason because here I do provide already a lot of information. You will find if you write very little here, and then the thing to generate, they still generate this much, but they may not be as close as what you were thinking. All right, and then let me see if there's anything we need to change. So life cycle is fun, competition name, description, categories, submission field, deadline. Okay. Student. One thing I see like when you do the submission, a lot of time we need to manage their grade level. Okay, so please record the student's grade level during and also school information during in the sign up. And the competition can configure the grade level requirements. Minimum requirement. Okay, as you read this one, you might see some of these things, just immediately provide that feedback. Okay, because once you provide it, and then they will start to modify those little requirements and like definition of the data structure and everything. All right. Yep. So they start to change this student field. Okay, all the different levels. And then they start to provide more detail on the data models. And also for the they have a grid eligibility settings. That's something they're adding. All right. All right. As you can see, you provide that one little feedback and they made a change across all the different kind of sections. Okay. And make sure they reflect that change. All right. So if you feel okay, all right. So sometimes I find that this type of document is very hard to read. Okay, so what I do is that just to show the content in the Markdown format. Okay, as you may know, Markdown is very popular in the AI's field. A lot of things are specified in Markdown, and this is Markdown. Okay, so you use a very simple like a formatting, you know, characters to specify the whole layout, everything. Okay, so let's read this again. Oh, that's only the extension. Okay, so they only talk about this one extension. Okay, so I need the whole thing. All right. Okay. Yeah, merge this into the full master and show the full master version as Markdown. All right, so this is you know, the draft. Okay, that's the executive summary we saw before, problem statement, and the core problem here, the vision, target user, role types, multi-tenant system architecture, lifecycle management, student profile eligibility control, and yeah, that's the things we added there. Competition configuration, student submission module, judging evaluation module, judging assignment engine, scoring, notification, certification, dashboard stuff, and other requirements. All right. So this document is really complete. Okay. Even without being as a product manager before, with AI, you can get a really professional version. Okay. So when you're looking at this one, there are really two things you want to confirm. One is the functionality. Okay. Any kind of things you saw missing, add it at this point because it's often easier to change in the requirements than in the code. Okay. You can always still change in the code, but the earlier you can find, the more so you can summarize here, the less trouble later on. Okay. And once you are okay with the functionality, I do want you to look at the technical architecture here. Okay. Because a lot of the time they will generate some kind of recommended solution for the development stack. Okay, what do you use for backend? What do you use for frontend? Database and deployment. Remember for the full stack, the 4 elements. Okay, so obviously you don't have to worry too much about this one if you don't know any. And because eventually the goal of vibe coding is that you only talk about features, functionality, and then they take care of everything. And you're not supposed to understand too much. But since we know the technology, and I do know that the choices here are going to make a lot of differences. For example, if you use here, let me show you some of the major differences. I talk about deployment. Okay, so I showed you how to use AWS, create EC2, all the setup stuff. But there will be a lot of manual process for you to do. And also, if you remember last time I showed you the the GitHub Actions to do the continuous integration, that part is a little bit tricky. A lot of code actually set up, so hard to do. But then if you use Versal as an alternative, you will find that part is getting so much easier. All you need to do is go to Versal and then connect to your GitHub repository, and everything is done. Okay, so making some choices here will make the rest part a little bit easier to do. Okay, I'll give you another example for the database. Last year, I actually spent a lot of time with Superbase, Prisma, which are pretty popular database these days. They're still relational based, very nice UI, very good services. But I find that this is not most convenient because these are based on the relational database. So every time when you use the database, you have to create a database table, define a column, define the schema of the database. And sometimes you have to add a new attribute. You have to go there to manually change that column. And the AI will always generate a little script for you to copy it over, even though you just copy, paste, and run, but still it takes some time. Now, what I find is more convenient is if you use a NoSQL database like MongoDB, because this type of database, they're just JSON files and hash tables, right? So you don't need to worry about a schema. You can always change the schema. So this one I found during the generative AI process, it's a lot easier, more convenient. You don't have to go to the database system anymore, and they always just go ahead to change everything from the code level. Okay, so some of this decision will affect the whole vibe coding process. Okay, there is no perfect answer. Maybe one day you will start to see some stack. Maybe people build that from ground to support Gen AI. I'm sure that's something where it's happening. Okay. But at least for now, there's no perfect solution. Every of these choices has pros and cons. Okay, so you just need to understand the differences. But what I want to start with first is something that I think is very simple and easy to use. It's not maybe the best solution in terms of security or performance. Again, there are pros and cons, but I think from the vibe coding point of view, this one gave you a very fast way to generate the code with least amount of efforts to do the configuration. That's the goal. Okay. For the front end, you might have heard about Next.js. So what Next.js is that they are built on top of the React.js. React.js is a very popular front end JavaScript framework. Okay, and then Next.js is something built on top of that to make things even more structured and easier to use. Okay, it's developed by the company called Vercel. So that's why Next.js works very well with Vercel. And also the cool thing about Next.js is Next.js can also be used at the backend. So they have a way to support backend. So you don't have to write front end at the React.js and the backend, for example, Python or Node.js. You split them like I showed you in our first example. So Next.js, I see the big advantages. It's very modern, performance is very good, and then they combine both front end and back end together. So you don't have to write multiple languages. And obviously, from the Gen AI point of view, that just helps us to simplify that whole process. You don't have to manage different projects for different environments. Okay, so what I'm gonna show you, at least for this project, is to stick with the Next.js for Next.js for the front end, back end, MongoDB as the back end database, and also use Vercel for the deployment. So I'm gonna put this one, okay, for the development stack. Please use Next.js for both front end and back end. MongoDB, Cloud for database, and Vercel for deployment. All right. So I would just give that specific requirements, and then they're gonna do an update. All right. So they actually specify right here at the top, okay, the system using this one. And I'm sure you can also see that later on. All right, so they started to talk about database here and the text development stack. Okay, it's not a lot more detail. So these two things are the only thing you need to really double check. And functionality obviously is the most important. And the development stack, since you know it, if you have some kind of preferences, and then stick with it. Okay. However, a lot of these things, okay, so it comes with experiences. I've been doing this type of thing multiple times over the past year. I started to kind of figure out something that works better for me. And that's why the vibe coding sounds very easy, but it still take a lot of experiences. Okay, so if you never done this before, you will find the thing to generate it is going to be less efficient than someone who been doing this one very frequently. Okay, so uh, once you confirm with everything and this product requirements definition file, the PRD file, will be your master, kind of like a blueprint. Now think about if you throw this one to Gen AI, it's definitely going to give you a lot better things than you gave some very informal description. Okay, so that's the goal of this product requirements document. Okay. So I'm going to use this one. Okay, you can copy this one. I would probably put this in a file somewhere to save it because this is the blueprint. Okay, but once again, this one doesn't have to be final. Okay, so you can always later on add and change things based on what you see. All right. So if you're okay with this one, now let's dive into generating the code. Okay, so um, at this point, and one thing you gotta realize that if you want to do this type of project code generation, you can't go with ChatGPT. Okay, so that's too much. You can't manage it. Okay, so for example, if I'm gonna copy this one here. Okay, so I start generate the code based the following PRD. I'll just copy this one. I think now you can do a lot of input like this, and then they will actually start to generate the code. But this is not very convenient. Okay, so they will start to give us all this code here, and then they will show you the step by step. Okay, how do you run this, and then how do you put all the files? But just looking at this one, just creating all those files can take you forever. Okay, it's not gonna work. You have to switch to the specific Gen AI tool for coding. Okay, so a lot of you know about Copilot, all right? But I would say there are more popular options. Okay, I showed you about the cursor. Okay, so that's one option. Cursor is something that you can work as IDE, so you can still see the code right here and to generate things. You can go with a very popular solution called a color code. This is a color code. Okay, so it's a terminal base. Let me rerun this. Okay, you run Claude. All right, and then that will create, they will just go to terminal, and then you just only type the command here. This one looks very simple, but that's actually the cool part, because if you work on a terminal, you're not going to see all the code. You don't need the IDE. It's very lightweight. They just want you to focus on the prompt. Surprisingly, this actually works better than Cursor. So I personally definitely prefer Cloud Code more than Cursor, because this one actually does, even though it does give you a lot of change things. Why do I still need to care about this one? Okay, and the Cloud Code can run everything, like including all the files and run other command, because this one goes in the terminal, so it actually has more power and permission. They can do kind of more things. Okay, so Cursor, Cloud Code, both I highly recommend. The difference is that Cloud Code right now, the biggest problem is that it's very expensive. Cloud Code, they have a first tier is $17 per month. But from what I heard, you can't really use too much based on that kind of a tier. So the next level is something called a Max, which is $100 per month. That's actually pretty much enough for most of your use. Okay, so if you want to try the most advanced one, just sign up Cloud Code. And then from last fall, okay, so OpenAI released finally their tool. It's called a Codex. Okay, this one developed very fast. Okay, so this may be a very good alternative, something you guys can consider to use. Because this one, first of all, it doesn't need IDE. As you can see, you just work with the prompt here. You don't have to open. You can actually open, but it's not really needed. So not like Cursor, you can see all the code. This one, again, almost same as Cloud Code. And besides, they have a nicer UI. You can, if you don't like terminal, this is better. And also, this one is cheaper. This one also, if you have the ChatGPT Pro plan, I think it's already included. So it's good for you to get things started. At least you can do a little bit more things than Cloud Code. How many of you have the paid ChatGPT version? Okay, not many. It's $20. Okay, our school has some kind of support. I don't know what do we have, but whether the school has support or not, guys, this is the suggestion I already told everyone 2 years ago. You should actually sign up a paid version. Okay, I think there will be a big differences between the paid version and free version. And also, I feel that if you sign up a paid version, it just give you more motivation to use. Okay, you don't want to waste it. It's not a small amount of money, but also it's not a very big amount of money. It's very worth to do it because first of all, it's going to save you a lot of time and efforts. But more importantly, as a CS major, as right now the market goes so much uncertainty, um, you're gonna master this whole thing, okay? As soon as you can. And then once you start to build this application using Gen AI, which I will show you, you will find it's not that easy. Okay, so you look at that requirements we just generated. I have no idea right now how much we can get work and how long it's gonna take. Okay, it's not an easy task, trust me. It's not something that you give prompt and you just wait all done. Not that easy. All of this one takes experiences. Okay, but that's pretty much the current status on how developer and the computer are building things. Okay, so I highly recommend you sign up some of these professional levels, start to pick it up. It's worth for that investment. Okay, so highly recommend. But anyway, Codex might be a good alternative in the middle. Okay, so I want to start from Codex first, okay, to see how it works. I also found from the mobile class that this one is a little bit faster than the Cloud Code. Okay, so I'm gonna do a new project here. Okay, so I'll try to find a folder for this test. Okay, so I'll go to the here. I'll create a folder. I'll call it a competition manager SAS. All right, so that's a new project folder. And then you can start to give things and start to build. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and copy this whole PRD file. Okay, this is the one I got as a giant specification. All right, so copy it and let's build this application based on the PRD file. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna copy everything here. And then this one started going to work. Okay, I don't know it's going to take how long. It's not going to be that long because they're not going to build everything. They will. What AI will do is break it down, and also AI knows to just give you a little MVP first for you to try, and then you start to confirm and adding things on top of that. Okay, so but then they start to kind of analyze this one. They they create a project scaffold. It's a very basic setup. And the next step is just to implement the core types. The data types go first, very reasonable. And then add the role-based UI pages and also add the APIs and document setup and for the next steps. So they know clearly how do you kind of bootstrap this whole project. Because as you can imagine, once we got a code there and we need to set up a lot of keys, database stuff, everything. Okay, so you can't get everything done all at once. So they will have to go this step by step. All right. So while we're waiting, I'm gonna go to create some database. Okay, MongoDB. That's something we did before. I like this one because the free tier, you can actually do a lot already. Okay, so I'll just do this one more time. Once again, you can use Supabase, Prisma, all the others. Firebase are fine. Okay, so during the Gen AI process, you will find that the MongoDB, the NoSQL kind of things, or Firebase, the same thing. It's a little bit easier than to use than the others. Okay, so I'll start from this one. So I'll call this one the competition manager and create a project. All right, and then you will need to create a cluster. I just use a free tier. Use the West and create. And that's the password. Okay, I'll just copy this one for that user. And later on, you will need to find that connection string. Yeah, it's right here. That's a password. So I'm gonna copy this one. I'll just put it here, just in they may need this one later. Okay. All right. Always as they generate the code, okay, always come back to check because a lot of these tools, they will ask you for some permissions to be safe if you want to do this or not, yes or no. So sometimes you don't know, it's just waiting for your prompt and input. Okay, so always go back to check. As you can see, they are running a lot of command. They make the folders, everything for you. So if you go back to that folder, let me see if I can show here. Okay, so it's yeah, anyway, I'll just go to find that folder. Okay, so as you can see, they are creating all the files for us. Okay, it was an empty folder. We didn't do anything. They're just constantly creating new things. everything being created. But if you don't do this tool, you just even the ChatGPT gave you all the steps, just doing all of these ones take forever. Okay. So that's why you have to switch to the specific AI Gen AI tool for coding. Okay, so that's what the Cursor, Cloud Code, Codec, what they're trying to do. Okay. All right. Looks like they're still working. Probably gonna take a while. All right. So we'll see here. There's some kind of a setup. I think there's a access. This part I need to make sure that this is just to make sure everywhere people can visit this one. All right. So later on, this database will be built. Okay. And then we will need to put this database connection, the username somewhere later on in the project. Okay. Yeah. So right now it's still in the first step, the creating the whole project folder structure, scar folder, everything. So beside the database, obviously you will need a GitHub. All right. So you will need to create a repository for this one. And I will just create one under my personal account. Okay, so I'll call this one as a competition manager. Okay, I'll turn that into private. All right, another thing you need is the Vercel account. Okay, so this one, it's very popular. Okay, a lot of you probably already used this one before. Okay, so you could later on just directly import your project from your GitHub, just connect it, and then the rest are done. Okay, they will get a code to the server, they will run everything for you automatically, and also in the future, whenever you push things, they automatically run everything. So this one you should also sign up. This one I can't remember. They should also have some kind of free tier for you to use. Um, yeah, or at least they have some trial. Okay, use that trial first. Yeah, for this project, it's MongoDB, um, GitHub, and Vercel. That's the basic need. All right. So let's see. Oh, actually, they finished everything. Okay, so that was pretty fast. You used 6 minutes. Looks like they're done. Okay, so as you use all the tools, okay, they always give you some nice summary. Okay, please always read this summary very quick. You can't just be there, then it's done, because a lot of time they include really important information. They will told you what to do. Next, sometimes they ask you to do some kind of configurations. If you don't read this carefully, you will miss certain things. Okay, so let's see. So they build this MVP with everything. What's included? They have all this router stuff, and then they have the domain models based on our PRD file. And they even have a multi-tenant demo data set. Very good. And they have an eligibility engine, and they have a scoring award ranking. And then they also have this kind of a service layer. And then they have files, everything, and then the Word and the different files and everything. Okay, note. So this is demoable MVP using an in-memory storage. You can see in-memory means that they're not connecting to the database. So that way you can at least run it. Okay. with MongoDB Ready service boundaries and authentication. They have file uploads, email delivery. They're not yet to, develop. Okay, so these things don't exist yet. Okay, they just want to give you a first MVP yet. All right. So they said they didn't run the npm install, which is to get a dependency. They didn't run this one. Okay, but you can run this one if you want, and you can run this one, run everything, and you also need to add some authentication, with some of the services. Okay, if you read this one, there's nothing specific you need to do. Well, what I can try is I just want to run this. Okay, so now run this app locally for me to test. Now, obviously, you can just run this command, run that command, but I think a lot of tools, they can just run this for you. Okay, so that's a cool part about this tool. All right, so you can see they started run the npm install. They're trying to get the dependencies. So it looks like there's something wrong with the. Okay, so here is the thing that you can see that they ask you if you want to allow to install this one. Okay, because there's some kind of a new things change for the file system. They want to make sure they don't mess up the computer. Okay, so I want to say yes, and also just for this type of thing, just don't ask me anymore. So I'll click on 2. All right, once again, just run it. All right, looks like this application is running. All right. Okay, now they said this is running and ready. You can use the one to go, and that's the page that you can actually see. All right, so I'm going to click on the localhost resultant. All right, so that is enough as application up and running. Okay, so this honestly, this UI isn't really good. Okay, the font size is kind of weird, but that's fine. We're going to provide that feedback. But let's see that. But they said this is just MVP, and here you have admin console, student portal, a judge desk, and that's the some of the dummy data. So let's see what we have. So if we do the admin dashboard, okay, yeah, some very basic admin stuff. All right, and you have a student portal, and that's some of your team competition and submission, everything. And also you have a judge desk, and you can actually provide scores and everything. Okay, some basic stuff here. And this is whole web app. I think some of the things are they said that they use a like in-memory database, not the MongoDB database. All right. So that's the first version you got. Okay, so as always, no matter how big that PRD file you're providing, as you can see, the AI knows that they're not going to build everything for you automatically because it's not possible. Like how we actually achieve this kind of big project, same thing, right? So you have to create a project base folder and everything, get things up and running, front end, back end all ready, and also not necessary to use a real database. Remember, I showed you the lunch example. I just use a memory database because I don't want to overwhelm everyone with a lot of database setup in the beginning, right? So just make sure everything works, and then I'm going to replace that database with the a professional database. Okay, so the AI is doing exactly the same thing. Although this version looks a lot, far from what we're expecting, but it's a good version. Okay, so as you work with AI, always the flow is that you generate, okay, and then you look at the results, and then you try it immediately. Okay, you can't expect AI to come finish everything for you. That's exactly where you need human beings. Okay, we have to be the one to be the project owner and to check and verify, to confirm everything, and always give feedback. Okay, give feedback immediately. Anything you see, big and small, use your own words, give immediate feedback. Okay. So for this, at this point, I'm not going to worry too much about functionality, but I'm very worried about this whole UI because this whole UI looks a little bit weird for me. Okay. So what I would say is that I'll just give that feedback first. Okay. So the UI of the whole UI and the UX is very disappointing. Okay. So a lot of the time you don't have to specify exactly what you want to change because we're not designers. We don't know what to change. Okay, but clearly this doesn't meet your bar. You just give that kind of feedback. Okay. Um, this is far from the YC investor demo requirements. Please make some significant changes on the UI and theme and polish it um, uh, for me. Something like this, okay? Because we don't have a design, we just want AI to give us different kind of designs, and then we give the feedback until we like it. I feel the theme and everything might be good to do in the beginning because once you set it up, and then the rest will follow the same thing instead of changing that later, right? Functionality wise, there will be more things to test, but that's fine because this is only a little MVP version. All right. So, and then they kind of said that they're going to redesign the global theme, font stuff, layout, rebuild the landing page, um, all the forms and everything. Yeah, remember this is going to be a lot of iterations. Okay, as you use Gen AI, it's just iteration by iteration, generate, test, feedback, and go back, generate, test again, and keep going feedback until you're satisfied. All right, so they are already making some changes. I think they automatically refreshing. Obviously they turn that into a dark mode, maybe a little bit more trending, and I think the font type got changed. The buttons, okay. Again, it's hard to tell if this is really good, but at least it's a little bit better than before. I think also because all this. Oh, okay, here you go. All right, yeah, it's getting there. Let's see. All right, so it's almost there. Okay, so they did all these changes and they summarized everything, just viewed everything. Most of this kind of full stack development today, they automatically refresh. You don't have to restart, just like this. I think they already, refresh everything. Style wise, better, too much text. I don't know if this is a landing page, but obviously this is not a very good landing page. Okay, so I'll still give one more comments. Okay, the landing page isn't right. Okay, there are too much tags. It doesn't highlight the features. Please follow the modern um applications like Shopify. Let's see what the Shopify looks like. Okay. Yeah, something like this. We'll just give the example to build a more attractive and professional landing page. Okay, try that. Because for services like this, normally when people go there and they're going to see all this highlights and features and case studies, images, and where ours is too much text. Okay. Also, the ones you generated, the style and everything also varies depending on the model you use. Cloud Code maybe give you something different. Uh, Cursor also maybe give you something different. And then this Codex using the ChatGPT's Codex model. So I actually saw a lot of styles are similar to this one. But as long as you give requirements, okay, they can change it to the way that you are looking for. However, as you can see this time, really you are just interacting with the prompt. You don't open the folder, you don't look at the code, you don't care about what they're changing. Although you can see what they're changing, but it doesn't mean anything to you now because there are too many. You're not gonna read everything here. Okay. However, you do need to know what you're testing. You do need to know all this, deployment stuff. Um, Again, without any coding background, this one is still a little bit difficult. All right. All right. So going back, so that's the change they made for a landing page. Okay. So honestly, this is a little bit disappointing. Okay, but that's fine. We'll keep providing a feedback until we're okay. Okay. So um let me try to change this one here. Okay, so they did give you options. If you want, I can, do a more premium hero animation treatment, screenshot section. Yeah, this sounds good. Okay, yeah, please add all of this. Okay, I'll just grab all of this. Let's see. All right, so they add some more changes. Let's see. We don't really see that. One thing I found the problem was that they don't have images. Okay, so yeah, these are some of the screenshot they talk about, but that's the generally the graphics. Okay, anyway, so we're gonna stop here today. Okay, so just from this one example, you can tell, um, using GenAI doesn't mean that everything will be perfect automatically. Okay, so there are quite a lot of feedback we want to provide. Okay, so we'll continue with this one, and we'll get one version, and next time I'll show you to push this to GitHub and then connect to Vercel. Okay, but today is more of a first kind of a taste on how the GenAI tool has been applied to do this time of bigger project. Okay, so we'll come back on Thursday to continue work on this project.